last week we had a demo. Orchard Core Commerce from David. I don't know why I put. Oh, because it was a kind of alpha, but no, it was a V1, but it's an MVP. Minimal viable product. So it was a good demo. Everything was working and some discussion about taxes. That was interesting. We talked about 1.6, which we mentioned also during triage last week. We can talk about it today again, and we talked about harvest today. First, E3, do we have demos?
I think we do. I would like to show the Node.js extensions project that we've published last week.
Okay.
And just give a quick overview of what we did there.
Thank you. I'll let you know when it's time. And
I would
Oliver is new. I see Eric Richards, who's new. I see Matthew Christensen. Well, new to me. I don't know for everyone else here, but new to me. And Zoltan says,
yep, I would have a demo as well about .Nest.
what is .Nest?
It's an Orchard Core SaaS.
Thank you. I knew that. Demos and topics. Well, I see Vicky, so
yes,
I assume we'll talk about harvest. Maybe we can talk about there was a big issue last week. Was there an issue last week? A bug or something I wanted to mention? What was it? Mike, help me.
Was it configuring YesSql asynchronously?
We can't hear you. You are too far away from the microphone or something.
Wait 1 second.
I didn't get it. Antoine, I see Antoine writing, so maybe Antoine remembers. Oh, it was a topic. What was it? There was a big issue.
The Chinese localization?
Nah, not this one. There is some in a different package. Maybe we had bug. Okay, well,
can you?
Yeah, it's better now.
Okay, good. Yeah, sorry. I think the configuring what YesSql. I think.
Yeah. That's why I asked you. Okay, thank you. As soon as you spoke, I'm like, came back to me because you fixed the issue. Okay, thank you. And yes, we would have seen that based on the commit logs. Okay, thread pool starvation. Yeah, I wanted to mention that because Zoltan mentioned .Nest, and it reminded me of how many tenants these people might have on their app, because it must have been a lot. Okay,
and
so
on that topic too, we talked about configuring services asynchronously, and there's a PR that there's a PR that John Theory is working on. I saw it.
Awesome. Okay, so status. Let's start with status. No. Why? Oh, because there is a new git release for security stuff, probably. So it's getting it. Okay, not sure. One, I think we merged. Or through the PR, I saw some builds, so something happened. And last week was the 24th. So here we have this thing, added username policies. Dev branch. Username policy. Stuff that we have in Orchard Core because of the new identity version that is now in Orchard 1. or something similar, maybe not exactly the same things, but improvement on username validation. Auth core. Date from the 24th. This was done. This one. Here's my site. Both settings should be configured from the configuration provider. So probably in reaction to the comments we made last week about not needing the interface. Yes, so the interface is gone and it's an option. So everything is beautiful. Thank you, Hisham, for handling that. Thank you, Lombiq. If Hisham did that for Lombiq. Okay, so yeah, so last week we talked about the PR and we saw some things that were not great, but just because this is what was done over the authentication services, so it has been refactored. Now it's better. So using options and removing useless interfaces. Fix model.IsNewTenant tenants API controller. Fix model.IsNewTenant. Okay, probably bad location to find if a tenant is new or not. Oh, and a new status code. 201. So if you try to create the same tenant multiple times. Interesting.
I think that was already there before. It's just in a different location now.
Thank you. Yep, it was there. Still interesting. I love it. Okay, so it's just moving code because apparently state can be updated and we don't check at the correct moment. Missing settings in tenant API controller. Those tenants can have that now. Okay. I support group ID and prefix in custom user settings, so forwarding or flowing the group ID and prefix to the inner codes in the driver in the editors. That looks fine. Add Chinese alias cultures for backward compatibility. Issue being that when we fix the Chinese culture support, some data is actually using these cultures. So we still need to do the first suggestion, which was to support these cultures out of the box by adding them to the list of available cultures, because they are not returned by the get cultures in .NET 6 and forward. So now users can select these cultures, even though they are not standard. But this is what the browsers send as the accept. Accept what? Accept culture? Accept culture. That's why we need to handle that. And then in the setup, though, the suggested values are now that for the setup screen and also in the admin. You should select these ones in the admin when you want to support a culture, because these are the preferred ones. Which makes me think that we still need to. No, that's fine. Do we need to have the file localizations for these cultures? I don't think so, because the Alias middleware that Hisham did might convert them to these ones for the localization files, but it has to be tested. I'm not sure about that. Avoid ignoring existing culture providers. Yes, so this one is interesting. Also, we have a custom Port should request localization options class because it has custom options for localization. But if a user was setting in their app settings some standard request localization options, we still need to read them and merge them with our customer. So this now is fixed. Make all fields part of fields and parts in the admin to be responsive to reduce the vertical scrolling. So this has been merged. Now there is an option that you can toggle to have all the labels on the left instead of the top of an input. And it also means that the views need to follow some new logic to support that. Example, these changes here with get NCSS classes. But yeah, it's documented. So that's the new way to do views. Oh, yeah, we should maybe have a release note paragraph about it. I don't see one here.
Say that again.
Release notes paragraph.
Oh, yeah, I have another PR that I'm going to be probably merging either Thursday or soon, which actually documents the change in the release.
These kind of things here.
Yep,
So,
yep. I already have another PR. We haven't merged it yet, though.
list content permission instead of view content. So there is a new permission called list content that is used when listing content items. And this one is when viewing a content item. This way you can still list things and not be able to view a content item. Ensure Semaphore is released. So here, if you hit this code, you return this code is executed, but the finally that is way below, that is releasing the semaphore is not called with this code. It will be called because it will go in the finally section. Edit tenant API. Edit tenant API, which I'm discovering. So apparently you can now edit. Well, yes, we can now edit a tenant to an API. So splitting this view model in two. See the base. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a fan of inheritance in this case. Just copy paste what you need. Because these are view models, doesn't matter. Validation. Data, same change. This one, tenant model inheriting from this one. Side context, API controller. So is it just part of a PR? Oh, yeah, did I miss some? Oh, I missed this one. Okay, I missed this big block, which is adding the new API method edit. First, authorization. Okay. Good job. Obviously, if you do some SAS things, that's useful. Prevent exception when author. So much changes this week, it's crazy. Never seen that. Prevent exception when AuthorizeContentTypeDefinitionsAsync is called with ListContent. Okay. The bug that fixed. My ref exception. Move YesSql Initialize outside the service configuration. This is the one I want to talk about. Not sure we'll have time. The idea is that if you look at the code before in this method, in the extension, in the data module. So this code before was using the store factory to create an initialize async. So create initialize async will create the store and check that the database has the document table, maybe create the indexes and just create tables and seed the IDs and so on. So this one was doing in the startup. Okay, configure services. Configure services. It's in the startup, but configure services step. Maybe not configure services. I'm not sure. Maybe, but resolve during startup the application. And is calling getAwaiter.getResult because this method is not asynchronous. This is based on .NET. Okay, .NET Core doesn't have an asynchronous way of configuring or defining custom middleware pipelines. So it's synchronous, and it's fine because it's on startup. So it's just doing it once, right? Even if you have if you do it multiple times, it should not be an issue. However, this is database code, and Mike noticed that correctly, that it could be slow if you are using if you're, for instance, on a cloud instance of database. Maybe there is some latency between all the calls that this thing has to do. And if you have lots of tenants, the startup is actually doing the startup for each tenant. So it's not just one startup, it's like lots of startups. And then you could have increased latencies because the same database is created again and again or checked for new tables. And all these threads, they will be blocked, and you will have thread pool starvation, which means that each thing here is blocking a thread, and you don't have as many threads as you want. Let's say you reach, for instance, let's say 200, and you will get your CPU won't be able to do anything at that point. And then you get timeouts because everything is stuck. So apparently for this number of tenants, that was a bad thing. So the solution that was implemented was to move this code into a part of the startup that is asynchronous. So in this case, here, so there is a new event called iShellContext event. Well, yeah, that's an event created async. It's like the tenant events, but specifically for configuration in this case, I'd say. So when the shell context is created, then so this one is an implementation. It's doing exactly the same thing, but it's called created async. So this is not using getAwaiter getResult, so it's not blocking the thread. And this thing here that is in the async, an async middleware, called in async middleware, will be able to invoke all the events asynchronously. So whenever a tenant is created, the middleware that is creating, that is initializing the shell context, will also invoke this event. And running a middleware, so on startup on the first request, is completely asynchronous, as opposed to the default configure methods in .NET Core. So the solution, this fix solved the problem that was raised. That's interesting. And there are other calls in Orchard Core that could use that new pipeline action if we think that they deserve to be run asynchronously. That's it. Update MultiTextField-CheckboxList.
Do we have, for the previous one, do we have any kind of performance testing to prove that, or to test the change, the speed? Is there a difference?
We could.
I mean, did you see?
No, I didn't do that but I used to do it at the beginning of even last year, even I remember with or 2 years ago with Dean, I did some benchmarking to improve performance startup. So what I do, and you could try it if you want. That's not hard to do. What I do, I have a console app that is cloning a tenants folder, the configuration. So you create the default tenant, or you create a new tenant, and I'm cloning this folder and renaming the files such that I have tenant 1, 2, 3 until 1000, for instance. So it's creating 1000 tenants folders. So when you start Orchard, it will load the tenants, but not initialize them because they are lazily initialized. Only when you go to the request, to the URL of the tenant, like a /tenant1, /tenant2, it will load the configuration and initialize it. So what I have an app that clones this folder, and then I have an app that does a request on the /tenant1, /tenant2 iteratively, like as fast as it can. And that will start all the tenants almost at the same time, even setup actually. So it can test the setup or it can test the startup of that thing. Only issue with that solution is what I was doing, well, with my testing, is that what I was doing was testing the memory used by a tenant. So that's why I wanted lots of tenants and how fast it is to load the tenants. But I was using SQLite databases. So maybe we need to change the default tenant I was creating to use a database that is remote to probably reproduce the issue before and to check if the fix is valid in this case, or if there is any improvement in terms of startup time. Which it should.
Because I think it's just interesting. I mean, you should, yeah, but how much?
If you have lots of tenants. If you have lots of tenants.
Yeah,
if you have less than 50 tenants, you should not see an issue because you block 50 threads, but whatever. If you didn't block them, there is nobody else to do anything with that. Probably.
Right. I hope the guys that reported the issue will come back to us and say, hey, it did improve things, and maybe they'll give us some sort of understanding of how much impact it did, because apparently they have a lot of tenants that we don't know how many is a lot too.
That's what I like to know, how many, and to have a brown bag about what they do with Orchard and how they use it, their business and stuff like this. But we'll see with .Nest, the same kind of business. So I don't know if I mentioned that in this meeting, but like I won't say, maybe 10 years ago, let's say 10 years ago, with Orchard 1, there was a company that was using multi-tenancy a lot. And I could see that because I would go on some sites and it was like car dealership websites, and they were using a lot of, every car dealership had a custom tenant. And at some point, our cloud instance for the NuGet package feed was down because it had too much traffic, because they had not updated their version for a long time, and it was still using a non-optimized way to load the NuGet feed. So they were requesting the feed every second to get new updates, and times all their tenants they had. So our database or server was going down. So I had to ping them from an email I found online to say, please update your machines because you are taking our cloud service down. So yeah, some people use it a lot with a lot of tenants. We just don't know.
Interesting.
MultiTextField-CheckboxList editor. What? The label was not on the left? Okay, fixed.
Yeah, a couple of views. Yep.
We'll find some. Default tenants administration, multiple feature profiles to the same tenant. Oh, I remember.
Yeah, this one you can now assign multiple feature profiles to one tenant. So you don't have to specify one. You can have multiple.
Missing validation in update tenant API. Okay. Related to the PR we saw earlier. Ignore system settings culture option is not used. What? Oh, because of the override. Okay. This ignore system settings is, I think Gabor filed it, I'm not sure. But it's the fact that by default, Windows can override original settings. Like you could say in Windows, oh, I don't want my decimal number to be a dot, but to be a comma, for instance. And .NET will use that unless you have a custom argument that will say, don't use the OS overrides. Because if you're running in the cloud, maybe some systems will be different. So you just want it to be deterministic, so you don't want to use these settings. Removing the useless semicolons. MKDocs updates, HTML helpers, same thing. null exception if there is an empty content on the placement file. Okay, the ref. Thank you, Andy. And Andy is not the first time contributor, Antoine? Okay, interesting. Or maybe we are, but it's not yet updated. MiniProfiler visibility based on permissions. So new permission for MiniProfiler. Front end and back end. Okay, so based on permission now and not configuration. Placement example for dynamic parts. Thank you. Doc is always good. And I think, yeah, we had an issue about that. Documenting that part. MailKit updates. It's a big update. 350. Yep. Array.Empty. Okay. Good. And NullProviderCultureResult. I don't know what it does there, but let's fix something. Awesome. Good job, everyone. Amazing the number of PRs. I can retire. It's okay now, right? Because I saw so many things merged without even me noticing. That's awesome. Then next, what did we say? Demos. So Oliver first. Zoltan, you agree? He's new. Gets to go first.
Yeah, of course. And he says
So you can share your screen, Oliver.
Thank you. Thank you. I will. Okay. I just lost my window.
But you need to think about the fact that Zoltan is after you to demo and we have some topics, so you can't take half an hour.
Yeah, that's I know I can take more than half an
Okay.
hour. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you too. Okay, so we have been working on this new project of ours that we called Node.js extensions, and what it's supposed to do, it's supposed to provide a front end asset pipeline, or actually several pipelines, as a reusable package and project, where under the hood we actually run some Node.js scripts. And we try to do it in a way that the consumer of this Node.js extensions project doesn't really have to know much about how it works and doesn't really have to configure much or anything at all in the best case. And we also set out to make this available as a NuGet package so that you can drop in a completely working but also configurable Node.js front-end pipeline, which means building linting SCSS files, linting JavaScript files, compiling them, minifying for SCSS files. We also have auto prefixing, which is nice, and source map generation, things like that. Well, probably many of those things that Gulp does in Orchid Core as well, just that we drop Gulp from the equation altogether, because Gulp actually officially Gulp 4 is not compatible with anything higher than Node.js 12. It does work on 14, but we had problems with upgrading to Node.js 16, which came out over a year ago, and now we have Node.js 18. So we decided that going forward we want to just drop Gulp from the whole pipeline and build the whole project just using npm scripts and some custom written Node.js scripts. So this diagram, I drew this in the meantime to show you that we can consume it with a simple project reference, which is what we do in our open source Orchid Core extensions solution, where we use projects from submodules. But it also works if you just add a NuGet reference to the project. And it works the same way. And we achieve that by copying the necessary parts of this project into the consuming project, into the node modules folder, just like a general, a regular npm package. And from there, so independently, if that's from submodule inside your folder structure somewhere, or from the NuGet cache folder, we have a local copy in here, which we then link to using pnpm, and then as part of the project build process using MS-build, we build, we use the pnm build call, which then under the hood triggers all those pipelines like SCSS compilation, JavaScript compilation, minification, and thus. And we also have markdown linting using both markdown lint and text lint actually. So there's quite a lot of rules that we enforce for our own good and for the good of others out there. And then the next piece of magic we have in here is that we add the compilates that we generate from those processes as embedded resources to the assembly being built, which means that you can actually keep all of your webroot files out of source control, because they will just be rebuilt on demand when you build your project. And the great thing is that the only thing that you need on your computer is a Node.js installation. Anything you don't need to install anything else for that. With so for example, pnpm, we use it through the core pack tool. I don't know if people know that, but that's Node.js introduced that with version 16.9, where you can transparently use pnpm through Node.js actually, which makes the whole pipeline less dependent on the environment where it runs. So that's another piece that we removed from the puzzle. And and we solved the problem that we had with the previous gulp extensions, where we didn't quite get to the point where the generated files would actually end up in the assembly. So this is good because it allows us to publish, us or anybody else, allows us to publish Orchid modules on NuGet while not committing any generated files to the repository, to any repository. So these things are just generated on build and then added to the assembly and the NuGet package. That's the high level part, and then if you will, I just show you just a few things in code, so I get a feeling of what the configuration system looks like, for example. So yes,
too small.
Too small. Okay, thanks. That's better. Okay, so we chose to add just a configuration section in the package JSON to avoid additional files that we would have to kind of copy or ask people to create and source control and things. So if you have a package JSON in your project, which you are likely going to always, you need to have actually, and if you don't have one, we'll actually even generate one for you. We have some, sensible defaults, which is the Orchid core convention of using assets scripts and assets styles folders like here in this project, but they can be overridden, as you can see here, for scripts and styles. So we can, so in this project, which is Node.js extension samples, that's small now, but you can see it here. I overrode those defaults, with some custom folder names here. And yeah, we will look for SCSS files or JavaScript files here, SCSS files here, and render them into those target folders. And then, yeah, I mentioned Markdown, but we also have asset copying, which is something that we do a lot in our modules, where we copy around some files from Node modules, for example, into the web root. Let that be Bootstrap or you know, some other front-end library that you want to just consume as an npm package and then have in your web root folder. So you can configure that very closely actually to what the assets JSON does in Orchid Core. We named it sources and target, but it's the same as input and output. And we have a pattern here, so you can apply that to, you know, image files or whatever you want to, or JavaScript files or whatever. So that's the whole configuration system. And then we also have Markdown. Oh, I have a separate package JSON here for Markdown. So Markdown can be enabled by providing a source folder, which can be any, you know, relative path to. Oh, this is nice actually, because the Markdown pipeline can actually run outside of the project as well, which makes sense if you have, you know, like a large solution of projects, and you can just do a single run of Markdown lint and text and over all the Markdown files. So you can go up here, or if you don't have a complex setup like we do here, you can just say, oh, Markdown my whole solution, like lint my whole solution, and we'll just find the folder where the solution file is located. The default is false, so Markdown is opt-in. That's just because it's maybe not the most common thing to do for your front-end modules. And we have great Visual Studio integration. So that's maybe the last thing I'm going to say. We have MS Build formatted warnings and errors. So when I have a double, I'm adding a styling of offender here, a double new line. And for JavaScript, I'm adding a longer line. Then we have a hard limit at 150. So let me add 155 characters here. Visual Studio has ESLint built in, and it picks up our configuration. But let's ignore that this is squiggled right now and just build the project and just see what we get from MS Build here, which will be a list of errors that contain clickable links to where the error actually came from. So we'll wait for the MS Build here. PNPM build is being called right now, and we have the pipelines running, and 1, 2, 3, there we are. So we have max empty lines, it should be 1. We have max line length, should be 150 at most, and we can go and double click on those, go right here, double click on this one, go right here and fix the error. And actually that was the second last thing I'm going to mention, because we also have, there's an npm package, a script runner extension from Mads Christensen that you can add to Visual Studio, and then you can actually run those scripts without building the project, just running front-end scripts. You know, having a watch script is nice if you do continuous development. Build and clean, also useful things. I think that's it for an introduction. Thank you.
Thank you. And in parallel, I was trying to remember package.json. No, it's something from Node.js. Or NPM.
Yes.
Is it? No, it's from NPM.
Well, yeah. Well, you usually put your npm packages in here in the dependencies node. Exactly.
And I remember then when we switched from a single package.json to multiple ones in each module.
Yeah, you don't have any, as you can see, there's no dependencies in here that concern the front end pipeline, right? It's all inside of Node.js extensions. So that was the goal, that you don't have to worry about these things.
So
here.
where was that before?
Well,
assets and everything, I don't remember. Where is that today?
Which assets?
The assets and
the assets JSON file.
Yeah.
Oh, this
is
is
assets.json. Okay.
That's what Orchid Core does. Well, we didn't replace that, right? So this is it's like a complement to that right now. This is for our own good right now, and we we needed this to package our packages as NuGet packages. So that was the goal. And to replace the assets JSON and the gulp pipeline, would probably have to do a few more things, like support TypeScript, which we don't yet. And I don't know. Yeah,
So,
but
so today in our core, when we have front-end assets, we have this assets .json file that defines inputs and outputs, how to process the inputs and what to generate.
Exactly.
And we have to run the gulp pipeline every time we do a change to one of these assets to rebuild all the assets that we want to store in the repository. Sometimes what's happening is that someone does a PR and then builds the assets, but someone else has another PR and also builds the assets and there are conflicts. So these are the issues we have. With your solution, this is the generation of the target assets is done on build of the module.
That's correct.
And that's the main goal. And this way, yeah. So which means you don't have, I understand that you don't have to store the build assets, which I like.
And we don't have conflicts.
Yeah, there can't be any conflicts because, yeah. And they are generated on every build, which is fine, but at least we are sure that they are valid. So when we do a test or when
wouldn't that slow the build even more?
Obviously, it will slow the build, yeah.
A lot.
It's only generated if the output files are older than the input files, right? So we do update checks as Visual Studio suggests or MS Build to avoid unnecessary builds too. Yes.
Is there something is doing a hash check and no, there is no change, so we don't know.
Well, yeah, you have input and output on the MS Build targets, so we use those to avoid building.
It will do it for you.
Yes.
Okay, interesting.
Well, we have some what are they called, like marker stamp files that we use, and with the stamp files we avoid duplicate work. But then the output files, well, of course, if you have a fresh clone, then you need to build everything. But then once you've built it, it's not going to be built again.
It would be interesting to have an idea of fresh, how much it adds to the pipeline. I don't think it might add too much. It's just text processing. Might be quick. I don't know.
Yeah, the initial build takes some time because you also have to pull the npm packages into the Node.js extensions.
And not for today, because today we don't do that. We just run it when we have a change. I see.
Yes. Usually you don't work on a clean checkout.
And people don't have it because usually if they don't touch front-end stuff, they don't even have to install Node.js or run the gulp pipeline. It's just nothing to do. Interesting. That's great. I like it. Good presentation. Good feature. Thank you.
Thank you too.
And I just discovered in the middle of the demo that you are from Lombiq because you don't have an accent on your name.
Yeah, because I'm German and I live in Poland. That's why.
Okay, that's weird. Okay, thank you.
Thank you too.
Zoltan.
Yes. So I will show you a small screen deliberately, so it's surely legible everywhere. And what we are talking about is .Nest. You should be able to see it. Let me know if you don't. .Nest is our orchard software as a service. It has been for a very, very long time. So we started with Orchard 1, but the news is not that, but that now you can also create Orchard core sites here. That was actually also available for about 1.5 years, but it wasn't available in a self-service manner yet. It is now. So if you go here, sign up, and then hit a new site or something like that, you will notice that Orchard Core is an Orchard edition that you can select here. We call it edition because it's not really a version. I don't know how else you can call it. Let's call it Orchard edition. So you can still create Orchard 1 sites, but Orchard Core is now available. So we can do something like OC demo. Yeah. You can select any available name here. The title is the human readable. The site name is the technical name that will also serve as the subdomain on .NEST for you. So ocdemo.dotnest.net in this case. You can also use, you can also purchase the option to use your custom domain. So something.com or ocdemo.com in this case. And once it's done, you hit setup here, and from then it's just Orchard as usual. So we have the built-in recipes available, as well as a couple custom ones and also a couple search-party ones. Anton, your resume team or the Bootstrap team is also here. So from this point on, everything is as usual. It's a multi-tenant SaaS, so there are limitations, of course. You can't run your own C# codes. You can't upload your own modules or something like that. But you can fully theme your site, actually. This is what I've demoed like 2 weeks ago or something like that. Oh yeah, I'm not sure why this is on Pacific Midway, because the servers are not on Hawaii. So you can fully theme your sites. I demoed that a while ago. The concept is called media theming, which is that you write your theme with Liquid templates and everything else, and then you deploy it to .NEST. You can also use Orchard Core Commerce, all the built-in modules, and there's a couple of other modules that we added. So all in all, you get some very easy to use Orchard Core hosting. You know, click, and then you have an Orchard Core site. It's the multi-tenancy or SaaS limitations, but still, for a huge variety of sites, that's I think worth a trade-off. So yeah, that's it. Sebastian, are you typing another joke?
Zoltan, I have a question about the setup process. Does the sign up process, is that something available where anyone can use it?
Yes, of course. So I was already logged in, not to take time with that, but you come here, hit sign up, and you can create a user account.
The code itself. So like, let's say, okay, I want to use the sign up process in my app. Is that something that you have or no? Like the code that actually creates a sign up.
Oh, you mean when I click the setup button, it went to the setup screen, that part?
Yeah, like if you know how you have a process, you have to provide your information, you have to provide your domain or whatever, right? It's like a wizard that allow you to provide the information, so that way we know how to create the website for you, right? That process of, is that something available?
The short answer is yes, but there are multiple facets to it, and I'm not entirely sure of what you're referring to. But first of all, there's an API call from this application to another application. That's the tenants API that's built into Orchard. What we use for that and what is available is this API client project, which is exactly that. So it makes it easier to use the built-in Orchard Core APIs. We focus on the tenants APIs because this was actually created for .NEST, but this makes that part a little bit simpler. And probably you also mean this new site screen that I've shown, this one.
Yeah.
Yeah. This particular one is not open source. This is just part of .NEST, but it's not too complex.
The reason why I'm asking, I actually want to just for awareness, our Neeraj he's also one of the Orchard core members. Neeraj have built in a very, very nice advanced plugin, very similar process that allow you to define a setup. So you can using the UI create steps for your setup for the sign up process, and then you can provide your information, and then you could actually make a payment. So if you have a SaaS, right, and then you want to automate the sign up process. So you can, as a user, go in, put your information, then you put your credit card, and then once you process the payment, it'll actually create the account for you. Again, it's all wizard-like. And the reason I want to mention it, because it's very similar to this. However, that one allows you to do, to configure the entire setup process, and allows you to also capture payment and manage those customers. So I wish he's on this call, but I encourage him, if he hears this, to actually do a demo of that module that he's been working on. And I know that one he wants to actually lease it. It's not going to be free, but I think it's a very nice sign up process, and I encourage him to actually demo it here.
Yeah, that sounds cool. The basic feature set here is free, so we don't need payment rights at this point. Only custom domain usage is something that we ask for a fee. But yeah, that sounds also interesting. So Neeraj, if you are hearing this, join next time, please.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank
You
you.
need to work on your form designer, because there are like 10 different fonts, sizes, and I don't know, on this screen.
Perhaps just 5 now.
Mike will help you. He will put all the labels on the left first, and yeah. I pasted the link to Neeraj's website and his modules on the chat if you want to check. Okay, awesome. Thanks everyone for your demos. I will share my screen because I will start the topics. And the topics were, that is done, harvest. 1.6, no, 1.6 first, 1.6 first, 1.6 first. 1.6 first. Where is that? Once again, here. Orchard core, this one. If we want to ship 1.6, we need to fix the issues that are assigned to 1.6. So please adopt a 1.6 issue by going to milestones 1.6 and fix 1. Okay, the PRs, some PRs are assigned to 1.6, but we'll do that on triage and see if they actually deserve a 1.6 label. But this issue, if you could work on these, that would be super helpful to be able to ship 1.6. I might look into this one. Doesn't need for 1.6, but it's something we need to absolutely fix now. Okay, thank you very much. Topic, Harvest.
Yes, thank you. So about the harvest, last week, as I told you, I gave one more chance to finding a Europe destination, but it didn't work out. So we agreed with Mike and also with Zoltán that the best option would be to have the harvest in Las Vegas. So that's I would like to ask your opinion about it. And yeah, first this one. So
everyone agrees.
Well, you agree, Michael. I mean, that's my only concern. But there is the concern I will emit will always be a concern, whatever we do, which is the cost for Europeans to go to the States. But if we were doing that in the Europe, then the cost for the North Americans to go to Europe. That's the same issue, right? So that's just my concern. Like, but there is no solution to that. So
yeah, I agree about this. I was also trying to find the European destination because I was thinking that it may cost a little bit less, but still I didn't find any destination where I could have such a big help as Mike. So yeah, so for the organization part, I think it will be the best. And also what we were talking about with Mike, that he already asked for 2 codes, and we were talking about that we would check out more, but we have to decide the date as well. So my opinion is that the mid of May would be the best, and I also wanted to ask about your opinion, if you can tell me now anything, but I will write about it in the GitHub as well.
I think so. If I remember correctly, we tried to choose some days adjacent to the weekend for travel reasons. Like you could travel on the weekend and be ready for the Monday, or you could then spend the weekend after, and to have some 3 days that you don't have to take out of work, at least at the beginning or the end of the thing. That's so doing it like on a Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday would be a bad decision, because then you lose at least Monday, Tuesday, or Friday, Thursday. So that's something to look into.
Yeah. For me, I was thinking about Thursday and Friday, but I'm also open for other ideas.
So, I mean, I think the decision of the location, just to comment on that, I think it depends on how many people are interested, right? So like, I know you mentioned 60 to 80 people are interested in the conference, which is great, but how many people of those 60 to 80 will actually travel to Las Vegas? Or if it's the other way around, how many will travel to the other destination, right? So I think think at the end of the day, it depends on how many people are willing to attend, right? It doesn't make sense to make a conference for 20 people.
You can just guesstimate, and advantage is that Las Vegas is easy from anywhere in North America to reach, right? There are flights from everywhere all the time and cheap. That's maybe the best choice for that, right?
Yes. Sorry, if I can share some details that in the survey, 42 people said that they would join in North America. So, and that was the biggest in this question.
Having too many people is not a problem. It's better to have too many people than too few people, because you can go to the conference and you can say, oh, we have 10 more people than expected. Can we increase the that or that? And they will say yes. But if you go to the opposite, like, oh, we are 10 and we expected 50.
Yeah, of course. I'm just saying that because that the most of the people said that they would join in North America. It was more than the Europe. So I was answering.
How many people from Lombiq? Zoltan?
At least one.
You see, at least one, but not 10 for sure.
I think realistically something like 3-5.
which would be great already. Like for one company to send 3 people, it's already good. Okay. No, that's great. Great news. And ideally, if someone is listening from Las Vegas or somewhere around, ideally, if we can get a company to host the event, I don't want to overstep some decisions, Mike, but it's better to have a free location than anything like in Las Vegas, because I'm sure there are companies doing .NET in Las Vegas, right, Mike? And
agreed.
Maybe some of them have like offices and they can share big rooms or meeting rooms, and just for 2 days, and that would be their contribution to the OnChurch project. That would be great if we can do that. And something I thought about was maybe to look into the .NET meetups. We mentioned that, but to look into the people who organized .NET meetups around Las Vegas, and sometimes they already had deals with companies that are doing .NET and had locations for the meetups there. So maybe it might be something to look into.
Okay, thank you for the advice.
I'm not even sure if there is a Microsoft office in Las Vegas. I can check. So let's look into
I'm
that.
not aware of one.
Yeah. Okay. So next step, decide the dates and the location and the attendance expectations.
Yes. So I think if everybody agrees, the location is decided, but I will also ask the others in GitHub as well. So I will try to find some good location there, and if it's not working out, then they can
try to see with the people who said they would go from the US, or if it was in the US, and say, okay, we have a date, it will be in Las Vegas. I was still interested just to see.
Yes, I would like to
keep the feedback loop alive, and to tell them, yes, there will be one. It will be in May. We don't know exactly where, exactly when, but usually you say Las Vegas in May, you can say if it's a yes or maybe, but you know, like, okay.
Yeah, and I hardly agree here. We should determine the date so we know for a fact, okay, this is the date it's happening.
Yeah.
So that way people can make a decision. Well, maybe they can come to Vegas, but maybe they can't do it in May 15th, for example. Yeah. So I think you need to be specific on the date, and then a strong possibility the destination, and then we'll see how many people are interested and they're willing to actually travel, right?
Yeah,
I think
the precise location will drive the hotel choices and everything for them if we don't propose something, so that they won't be able to book anything until we have an actual location for the meeting.
And a date as well, right? And I think date will tell them how much will it cost them to travel.
True.
So if you say May 15, then they can figure out, okay, it's going to cost me this much. Am I going to be able to do it? Yes or no? And then they'll be able to come back and tell you. So I think that's why.
Yeah. Yes. So I would say that, for example, the 18th and 19th of May would be a great date. So then everyone has still the weekend to travel back there.
That or this week, like the week of the 18-19, or the like 14-15 if it's on Monday, Tuesday, or 15-16, I don't know exactly. I need to do the math, like -4, something like that. And yeah, this week, like beginning of the week or end of the week. I think we've always done that on the beginning of the week, but I might be wrong. Just we can check on the historical dates of harvest.
So it was in the beginning of the week. Okay.
Yeah, but we need to check. But if it was, then there were reasons, and we liked it, and everyone was happy with that.
Okay.
5 years ago. I completely forgot about everything.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, the last one on New York was definitely Monday, Tuesday, because I remember I left on a Thursday. So, and I liked it because I spent 2 days before with my family in New York. It was great. So I assume people would do the same thing in LA. They can at least do that. Take time to arrive. Yeah. Sorry.
It's possible that Thursday, Friday are more expensive days if you want to rent something because it's closer to the weekend. After the weekend, things tend to be more quiet. So that might be at least one reason.
That the weekends might be more busy, at least yes, in Las Vegas. Because like people will leave just for a weekend.
Yeah, Friday.
In terms of flight, it might be the opposite. Flights on the weekend might be cheaper than the middle of the week. So.
Just a hint. Usually flying to Las Vegas is much cheaper than anywhere else.
Yeah, that's what I said before.
Yeah.
I agree. Like for me, it's like $200 from Seattle. If I go anywhere else, it's twice that.
It's like $80 for you. I looked it up because I travel.
Probably if I take the good days and the good agency, yeah, I agree.
It's only 800 from Warsaw.
City. It's a tourist city, so the casinos and the hotel actually provide the airlines deals to let people come in,
and
so that actually comes in.
And the airport is in the city. Like 10 minutes after, you take a car, Uber, and you are on the strip. Like it's super close.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Let's continue offline and see the dates written somewhere.
Okay, I will check the other harvests and then I will
schedule.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. See you on Thursday or next week. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.